James. How are you? Are you excited for this season or what?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, it feels like we had, 2-3 days of peace and quiet where there was no football happening, and now we're straight back into it. It feels like nothing has changed.
It really does. Last season, it was kind of a three-horse race, right? And then Liverpool sort of fell off at the end. Do you anticipate it's going to be maybe even more competitive at the top this season?
Maybe even less competitive. I find, I mean, I don't know what your guys' view is. I find Liverpool to be a really hard one to get a grasp on. It sort of feels like they've got two options that they can take this season, and one of which in the transfer window as well, and one of which is to kind of exploit the very last they can get out of Virgil van Dijk, out of Mohamed Salah, and fearful to say it, but maybe even out of Trent Alexander-Arnold, all those players with 1 year left on their contract, and Van Dijk and Salah in particular, you kind of have to figure are heading towards their post-prime years. Do they do that, or do they build a squad for Arne Slot and the future and build around, talents like Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, and look further forward? So I find them really hard to read. The other two just look a long way ahead of the competition. I think Arsenal have strengthened quite well. Manchester City haven't, but when you're as good as Man City, maybe you don't need to.
James, by the way, you give Guillaume Balaguer a run for his money with the shirts.
I know.
My friend. Very flowery, very colorful.
We have like 5 days of summer here, so you've got to dust that.
Since we're on the Liverpool topic, I wanted to ask about Zubimendi and how apparently he's rejected the Liverpool proposal, and it feels like that was the main area of concern that was glaring for Liverpool, right? That sixth spot. What's the direction that you think Liverpool's going to take, considering everything that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, the early word, what I'm hearing is that Liverpool, with Zubimendi now off the table, and it's worth noting that Zubimendi's always sort of been a bit reluctant to leave Real Sociedad. Arsenal had these conversations with him, Bayern Munich had these conversations with him, but couldn't extricate him. So it wasn't necessarily a shock, but the word is that Liverpool will look to hold firm, will stick with what they have in this position. They have players like Wataru Endo, Ryan Gravenberch, potentially you could see Alexis McAllister there this season, rather than kind of go for any option just to strengthen this position. We should say that Michael Edwards, their new head honcho, has seen this strategy work very effectively before. You wait for the right six to come along, much like you waited for Virgil van Dijk, you waited for Alisson, Mohamed Salah, whoever it might have been, and you get the right man, and it can be incredibly successful. So do not be surprised if Liverpool just opt to stick with what they have, whether that be McAllister or Endo starting as that number 6 next season, or possibly even a change of system from Arne Slot. We've seen him sort of play these sort of 2 false 9s, 10s, whatever you want to call it. So I wouldn't expect there to be big spending in the midfield unless something changes, that's for sure.
James, you bring up a good point, which is the difficulty it is to compete with a Manchester City and keep up pace. I think Arsenal are doing a good job of it. Hopefully Liverpool can as well. Because here's what I fear. 6 out of the last 7 years, Manchester City have won. There's a real chance that this is going to start turning into the Bundesliga of the last decade. What are your thoughts? What's the vibe in England with Manchester City seemingly being an odds-on favorite year in, year out?
Well, I suppose what's so strange about it is lurking over all of this, we have the court case, which we're expecting to reach its conclusion, the Premier League's 115 charges, expecting to reach its conclusion right at the end of this season. So within that, we don't know what the sanctions might be, when they might apply. But it does almost feel like that and what's happening off the pitch is more of a significant pivot point for Manchester City and the Premier League than maybe what happens on the pitch, because even in a season where, like you guys were speaking so well about just now, they've lost Julian Alvarez, and players are going to age like Kevin De Bruyne, and they don't look like they have the depth of others. It's still quite hard to put together a case for any team other than one being able to compete with them, and that is really bad for the Premier League, for the product. As long as you can attract the best players and have that, the transfer drama that is such a driving force of interest in the Premier League, I think it doesn't have to necessarily worry about losing its hegemony, but it's just not, it doesn't make for a fun April, May, when you already kind of know how the story's going to end, does it?
Well, James, one team that we can both agree on that we might know how the story's going to end, Chelsea, because it's chaos right now. It's another Premier League season, another transfer window, and they have another manager. They made a lot of changes this summer, as they tend to do under your favorite guy, Todd Boehly. But what can we expect under new manager Enzo Maresca?
Well, one interesting thing is Leicester, even though they got back to the Premier League first time of asking, were not kind of blown away with Maresca, and their fan base was not necessarily devastated to see him go. It was quite a cautious defensive setup, really prioritising possession as a defensive weapon as much as an attacking one. And I don't particularly see how that fits with the squad Chelsea are building. They seem to be hoarding every left winger they can find, including some they've already had a look at with João Felix. When you see them in pre-season, and we should say it's only pre-season, there still seems to be a lot of work to be done on this defence, because so many of the component parts of it have never really played together. In goal, Philip Jorgensen, we don't know a lot about him, for instance. The centre-backs are all now very young. And there's just sort of, I don't know what glues them all together beyond the sort of excellence of Cole Palmer, which I don't think you can necessarily price in, year out, given he's a young footballer. So what can we expect from Enzo Maresca and Chelsea this season? I have absolutely no idea. In fact, I feel like the only thing I can confidently say is there will probably have to be more creative deal doing just to keep this team on an even keel in terms of PSR, whether that is, I mean, I don't know what they can sell or transfer ownership wise now that there's 2 hotels that have moved, the women's football team. That's almost the thing that fascinates me the most, because I kind of know that this team may not be all that good.
James, if you could only see yesterday, in between breaks, we were doing the depth chart, lining up the players, and I was running out of space for Chelsea. There's an overbooking in so many positions. It feels like it's too much, but is Chelsea publicly explaining the direction with the strategy that they're taking with signing so many people, or is it kind of just throw papers in the air and figure it out on the fly?
There's no public explanation, and we should say that, you know, the senior figures behind this, because these are decisions that aren't being made by Enzo Maresca, they don't kind of explain themselves to the fans beyond maybe the odd sort of bit of internal communication or program notes and all that. So it's hard to sort of fully understand what they think they're doing beyond sort of reading between the lines financially and seeing them buying these clubs like Strasbourg, and you realise that maybe what you're looking at here is something like a player trading model. But it's very hard to make that player trading model work if you're not making these players better. I mean, to take an example, Mykhailo Mudryk, who we know has struggled and is probably going to go into this season as maybe their 3rd choice winger, to even book a profit on him in transfer terms because of his contract, they would have to sell him for £60 million at least, I think. And the real challenge there is, if you're not making these players better and you've signed them to big money on long contracts, it's really hard to kind of get out from under this team as well. So Chelsea aren't explaining this strategy, and we end up sort of reading between the lines, and what we read does not, in my view at least, make for pleasant reading or a bright future for Chelsea.
This is like buying and selling your used furniture. You know how difficult it is to sell used furniture?
Yeah.
Like when I moved just now, I'm thinking of this is like Chelsea.
Sounds like the beginning of an ad. I thought you were going to give us a...
No. It's literally like that. The table, nobody wants the table that's been used and it's not good. Like, it's good, but it's not good that good. They want... No. Yeah. I sense a certain frustration with Chelsea and my used furniture.
There is one potential transfer that I think would shatter all the records. And I know, James, you're a little tapped into what's going on with the Saudi League. Talk to me about this Vini Jr. deal. I'm hearing the number is $380 million per year, which is more than $1 million a day. What? You gotta take that. Is this real? James, is this real, dog?
Certainly there is no formal offer being made to Vinicius. I have no doubts that if he expressed an interest in going to the Saudi Pro League, PIF, who own the 4 biggest clubs, would do what they could to make the money work. But look, like, the owners right now and the Saudi royal family and the Saudi state are not throwing money at this league like they were a year ago. So unless Vinicius Jr. wants to force this matter, or unless something dramatic changes, and bear in mind we're always talking here about the whims of the royal family and things like that, so it can be a hard one to predict. But at the moment, there's been no formal offer to Vinicius Jr. And whilst I'm sure the Saudi Pro League would welcome him with open arms, it's not one that I can sort of see happening in the next few weeks.
James, I know his buyout clause is €1 billion. I think that's even a lot for the Saudi.
Chump change.
It's not this. Shake your own couch out, Nico. That you're selling. I'm sure you got
I'll
it.
try.
You might still need the couch, though.
Yeah.
You might still need that couch.
They'll give him like a unicorn, whatever Vinicius wants.
Poor
to
horse
join
getting spray painted
the
white.
Saudi Pro League.
God,
Jeez.
it's stupid money.